for reference in the future. Good evening, everybody. My name is Ngone Diop. I'm the Community Planning Division Chief for Baltimore County Department of Planning. And this is the Northwest Gateways Steering Committee meeting. And today is May 11, 2022. Welcome, everybody. So the agenda for tonight, we'll go to an introduction really soon. Then I'll give you some updates on the cans and the benches. We will be reviewing the action plan for the sustainable community. I did email everybody a copy, but we'll review it together. We'll talk about appointing a fiscal agent. What would that role and responsibility be? And then we'll also discuss creating subcommittees for this committee. So without further ado, I'm gonna start with the introduction, the attendees. Ms. Shirley Supik.
Hi, I'm Shirley Supik. I am the president of the Liberty Road Community Council. I am the co-owner of the Emmert Pierpont Safe House, a station on the Underground Railroad. And I am the vice president of BCASCO, which is an organization that represents seniors.
Thank you, Ms. Shirley. Devon Parks.
Hi, everyone. Devon Parks with Stony Brook Community Association in Randallstown. Nice to be a part of the group.
Thank you, Devon. India Artist.
Hi, India Artist with Secretary for the Villanova Community Association.
Thank you. Albert Barnes.
Yes, Albert Barnes. I'm a member of the NAACP, asked to join the task force to represent them, as well as member of Kings Park Neighborhood Association.
Thank you. Stephanie Hopman. Gloria Cooper Blue. Sheila Lewis. Michelle McCallum.
Good evening, I'm Michelle McCallum. I'm a resident of Old Mill Estates.
Thank you. Aaron Plymouth, I know he was not able to make it. Carla Nelson. Chambers. Burnett Jones. Kellen Thomas. Grace Snowden.
Hi, I'm Grace Snowden. I'm a resident in large representing the Woodmore community.
Thank you. Marilyn Evans. I thought Marilyn was here. Is requesting to unload the share.
I'm sorry, I was having difficulty, technical, what do you call it, user error. I couldn't find the button to unmute. Marilyn Evans, 12th Street Community, and I'm just here.
Thank you. Jamelia Blount. Danielle Smith. Linda Dorsey Walker. She said she might be able to join around 7. And Sharon Hendricks. All right, so now that we have an idea of who's here, we have a heavy agenda today. First of all, I want to update you on the cans and the benches. So the last time that we met, we agreed on the quantity of trash cans to order, and we agreed that we were just going to replace all the trash cans on Liberty Road. So that is going to be a total of 64 cans. And out of those 64 cans, we know that the ones that we are going to be replaced, some of them are in good condition. And I think the agreement was to, once we remove them, we're going to recycle the ones that have good conditions. And we're gonna, store them as a replacement in case any of the new cans gets damaged. We can pick out of that recycle lot. So since then, I was able to pick a vendor, and this is the same vendor that we are using in Pikesville. So if you are, just to give you a little bit of background, Pikesville also got some county money, and last year they started doing the same projects than what I'm doing right now with Liberty Road, and that is replacing the benches and the cans on Ricestown Road. So when they did their cans, they used the vendor Ecovision Environmental. So in order to avoid going to a bid and making sure the process is faster, I'm just going to use the same vendor. It takes about 10 to 12 weeks when we place the order to complete, the cans. So having said that, once we order the cans, we also need a contractor that is going to be removing and installing the cans. With Pikesville being the first project with the county was able to help them with the removal and the installation. So they don't have that manpower anymore, and we have to come up with a contractor that is going to be doing that removal and installation. And that's where I'm running into issues. So I have two contractors that have been used before by the county. One is Metro Recreation, and the other one is Playground Specialist. I contacted them, but both of them are not able to do the work this year. They are so overloaded with projects that they will not be able to install or remove any of the benches or the trash cans this year. So does it mean that are we going to a bid, or do we want to wait until January? If we go to a bid, it's a 6 months process at least. And again, like I said, the process is much longer than waiting because so that's the issue we have right now. And I want to hear from you what you think. We have a couple of options. Again, we can wait until 2023. We can put a bid process in now. Don't know how long it's going to take, at least 6 months. Or we can order the cans now, try to store them until next year, until we have a contractor ready to install them for us. And
where would we store them?
So I'm still into discussion with the county. We have the central facility, acceptance facility. That one has been used for for Pikesville to store the cans. I don't know if they have the space to do it for Liberty Road cans, but that's just a possibility. And the reason why I'm thinking to maybe try to order now, we know what's going on with supply chains. We don't know if the prices are gonna go up next year. So all of that are possibilities. So I want to throw it out here and hear what you guys think about, or what do you want to decide?
It's really funny because
being a problem.
I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
It's really funny because I've been on advisory council for a long time with BGE, and they really do believe in buying things ahead of time and storing them to hold down the cost. I believe they are on the right track there, and I think that is a good plan to order them and store them if at all possible.
Okay. Mr.
I was going
Barnes?
to say that I think you should order them, and it could be with a date projected out as far as the first of the year. I would think you should minimally order them, and we could consider a subcontractor trying to find somebody to I know it takes 6 months to find somebody, but I think you should go ahead and order the cans.
Okay. And then one other thing that I want to say is that during the winter, they usually don't like to install this type of streetscape furniture. So if we order it now, installation, I don't see installation until spring of 2023. If we even have a contractor willing to do it with timeline. Okay. And I know Devon has her hand raised.
Yeah, my question is, I'm all for the buying them now and storing them, but is there going to be a cost for storing them?
That's a great question. And again, I'm in discussion. Nothing has been, I'm trying to see what are the options. The county is an option. The vendor that we're going, the contractor, the vendor is an option. Can they store it for us until we are ready to install, then they deliver it? That is an option that I'm contemplating. The future contractor is an option. Can you keep it for us, store it for us until it's time, until you are ready to install it? So all of those are options that I'm in discussion in, and I will be able to update you once I have something.
Yeah, and then where would we get that money from if it costs money to store? And if it does cost money to store, you know, we probably can always use the public storage since we have so many of them.
Don't we have some money left over?
Well, so far we have 250K. We haven't spent anything. I don't know how much the total cans and benches are gonna be. I don't know how much the contractors for removing and installation are gonna be. I don't know how much storage is going to be. So once I have all of that done, whatever is left, I'll be able to let you know. But okay,
Correct.
I mean, storage, okay, that's an option. I'll add it to the list. And Grace, I think Grace had her hand raised.
I do, thank you.
Sure.
So I'm in for putting a purchase order in for the cans. I'm also in with, if it's gonna take at least 6 months and nobody can do anything between now and spring, we're clearly gonna cover that 6-month bidding process, which will actually give more bidding out, more options to vendors available in the county rather than just 2.
Okay.
As far as storage, I think that we'll have to tackle that once we figure out, you know, what our options are. I think that the vendor should be able to prolong a delivery till May for a guarantee, you know, or whenever we think is appropriate time of the year that the vendors would want to do install.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we can buy now and pick up later.
Okay. Okay.
That's what I was thinking. If we don't know when we're going to need them, and it probably won't be before the beginning of the year, place the order, but tell them that, you know, they don't have to be made until then because storage may be an issue.
Yeah, and at least we can lock the price.
Possibly not making them to sometime in the following year, maybe
Yeah.
April or so.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We lock the price for now. You know, we keep working on contractors or even putting a bid, you know, is an option. And then have the vendors store it for us or wait until we're ready to do the production. So again, it takes 10 to 12 weeks. They can start production early next year, but then we just lock the price now. I'll let you know. So, okay, I want to move on. I mean, if there's any other input, I want to move on to the rest of the agenda. So I want to talk about the action plan. The Northwest Gateway Sustainable Community, it was approved in 2020. Most of you were part of the engagement. Most of these projects that I'm going to be, reading were your project that you suggested to include in the action plan. So the action plan is good for 5 years. The goal is to try to accomplish as many projects as possible within the 5 years. And it will be due for renewal in 2025, January of 2025. Some of these, you will see that we are either in the progress of doing or we have already done. So And again, the action plan is divided by elements. Those are the sustainable community elements. There are 6 elements. There is environment, economy, transportation, housing, quality of life, land use, and local planning. And right now, I'm going to go through the environment projects. So the project number 1 is to preserve additional parklands and provide additional strategically situated parks and recreational facilities. And we have different, yes?
I'm sorry, we're talking.
Oh, okay. And we have different strategies for each of these projects. So strategy A is to acquire additional park sites in areas of need within the sustainable community area. And again, the sustainable community area is a large area that includes Randallstown, Pikesville, and Woodlawn. Strategy B is to enhance new and existing parks and recreational sites to provide expanded recreational opportunities. Strategy C, aggressively pursue unique opportunities in areas with scarce land availability, such as site redevelopment, retrofit, and acquisition of portion of large sites that could serve multiple use, including mixed-use development. I'm sure you all have read this plan, right? And you are familiar with the action plan, right? But I still wanted to review it together, so we are all familiar with what we are doing with. So the project number 2, improve and control litter and dumpster issues. Strategy A, upgrade all existing trash receptacles to larger containers. So this is one that we are right now doing. In few months, we can put a check mark on that. Strategy B, increase the frequency of street sweeping services in the area.
Yes.
Strategy C, continue development and implementation of anti-litter campaigns and install signage on all county trash cans. D, post no littering signs throughout Liberty Road to remind people to pick up after themselves while enforcing the litter law with fines. Okay, so number 3, on the environment, it's about increasing the tree canopy. So how can we do that? Strategy A is by doing tree planting, either through redevelopment, or B, work with community groups to increase tree canopy by planting street and front yard trees. Areas with a high percentage of ash trees will be targeted for tree planting. And right now we have a program that is similar with the county called Operation Retree. We've been working with communities in Dundalk, in Essex, and we are in Randallstown right now, I think in the Villanova area.
Good.
What's the name of the program again? Operation what?
Retree, R-E space T-R-E-E. All right, so those were the projects we have for environment. Under economy, we also
Excuse
have.
me, Bonnie, can I
Yes.
ask a question about the environment? It's a self-interested question.
Sure.
So I have trees that are on the box next to the street that, of course, are going their bounds. Is that a potential strategy? I have trees I'd like to keep there, but of course they're creating impact on the sidewalk, right? They're raising the actual concrete slabs and also overgrowing. Or is there a strategy that could be included there at all to help people like myself who want to keep trees that serve my, I like having the trees and birds and they help the community, but I'm going to have to do some amendments to the site in order to keep the trees.
You mean include that as part of this action plan?
Well, I mean, I guess just a strategy that perhaps could be considered, I don't know, maybe to be able to help people keep trees that they already have. For instance, you're looking at replanting places with ash trees where we know there's disease. But is there something to help people who may have older trees that are already there that are creating some, cost issues or negative impact that may influence them to take them down as opposed to keeping them where they are?
I'm Amy. I'm with Baltimore County. I just started a month ago, and here listening in to try and help out with some of these action plan items, possibly. I think that might be another program to talk about, where it would be about, because that sounds like if it's causing the sidewalks to heave and things like that, maybe there's another program you create that's about pedestrian safety and walkability, where if there's heaving sidewalk, you can address that and at the same time do it in such a way that it accommodates the tree that's already there. But usually money that's set aside for trees, unfortunately, they won't let you use it for like ripping out concrete and replacing it, even though we all are familiar with the issue I think that you're raising.
Okay.
Baltimore County does have a plan where if the trees in your community are lifting your sidewalks, if you contract to have that tree removed and the sidewalk fixed, Baltimore County will pay a portion of that. It'll be much smaller than it would be if you contracted with a contractor. Trust me, it's really easy, and they put it on your taxes, and you pay it over a 5-year period, I think it is. So by the time you get done paying it, you don't even miss the money that it cost you to have that tree removed and your sidewalk replaced.
Thank you. I don't want to move the tree. I want to see if there's a way to do both things. So it's trying to keep a tree.
If it's tearing up the sidewalk and causing a problem for people who are walking, the tree would have to go.
Yeah, because we're dealing right now with safety, pedestrian safety. But thank you all for your feedback, and for your input. All right, so can we move on to the economy? So we have a couple of projects. So project number 1 is to diversify the commercial use on the Liberty Road corridor. Strategy A, provide market research results on trends in the marketplace. So kind of like do a market study and see and evaluate where the success is and how can we, put that in place for Liberty Road. Strategy B, identify available inventory for lease or sell properties along Liberty Road and continue to communicate with area property managers, to offer assistance in filling vacancies as well as understanding their needs. I have to say that the county, specifically the Department of Planning, is in the progress. We are trying to hire a CRD planner, what we call Commercial Revitalization District Planner. Liberty Road is in a CRD. So that planner is going to be providing support to the CRD, the businesses that are in the CRD. And these strategies are one way for them to kind of provide that support and that assistance needed for the CRDs in the county, including Liberty Road. Strategy C is to continue to promote the county financial programs. So as you know, we have some CRD incentives in the county, Architect on Call. We have the BILP loan, which is a building improvement loan program. We have the tax credit, and we have the CRAC. So those are the county financial programs. And also DEAL, Department of Economic and Workforce Development. They also do have some type of loan, boost loan, and some type of financial programs as well. So continue to promote those, but also collaborate with DHCD and nonprofit organizations to provide growth tools to new and expanding businesses. Strategy D, continue efforts to work with brokers and developers to address the need of quality grocery stores and upscale restaurants in the Liberty Road area.
CRD means what?
Say that again.
CRD means what?
CRD, Commercial Revitalization District.
Oh, okay.
So project 2 on the economy, it's to attract and retain the businesses along commercial corridors. Again, Liberty Road is a commercial corridor. Strategy A, continue to encourage businesses to participate in Baltimore County tourism initiatives and provide outreach assistance to relocating or closing businesses. continue to promote the various financial programs and incentives available within the CRD. Strategy B, develop strategies that create Liberty Road, Pikesville, and Woodlawn. Again, all of these are in the sustainable community as a retail destination. Make them, give them a sense of place. Acquire additional marketing and promotional materials that highlights the area's history, demography, locational advantage, and vision.
Mhm.
Strategy C, streamline and improve approval process to make it easier for new businesses to invest in Liberty Road and existing businesses to revitalize. Strategy D, continue to foster redevelopment near the Northwest Hospital and linkage to the cluster of county services on Resource Drive. Project number 3, increase job opportunity for the youth and the elderly population in the Liberty Road community. Strategy A, continue to collaborate with CCBC to provide education and training programs that would enable the youth and the elderly to secure a job or advance in a demand industry or occupation, and provide more outreach and trade programs. Strategy B, improve data availability and understand the nature of local skills supply and demand mismatch as a starting point to the local youth employment strategy process. Analyze skills shortage to determine the cause. Strategy C, put in place the right incentives and success measurement to support collaboration and target action on increasing employment for the elderly. And D, continue to promote the youth and the senior employment programs, such as the Summer Youth Employment Program and the Senior Community Service Employment Program. These are the projects we have on the economy. Anybody has any questions?
Yes, I do. On project 1, where for number A, when it talked about research, do you think Councilman Jones may have some research already through his office? Or if he doesn't, we don't take advantage of, we have some of the best universities and colleges in the country, and we don't take advantage of the expertise that these kids offer. And I'm just thinking that if he doesn't, could we embrace maybe, Community College of Baltimore County or even UMBC to do a study for us?
I think that's a great point that you are
Excellent
raising.
idea.
About Councilman Jones, I am not aware, but it's a question that we can relay to him. But I think it's a great question about the fact that we are not really utilizing the skills of the youth in college. And
Right.
once we come up with, we're going to talk about subcommittees later on. How are we going to divide these projects? And it's a strategy that we can use in order to implement some of these. It can be free, it can be, you earn credits, you whatever.
Right.
So it's a great point.
I agree. I think it's a great idea to try to tap in and use some of these bright ideas that these young people have. And I think you mentioned, as well as others have mentioned, that the county has hired a consultant to work with us on the lack of food markets, and that type of thing in the area.
Had the county found a contractor? Is that what you said? I'm sorry.
I understand the county has hired or is hiring a consultant to assist with trying to find ways to bring markets or more business to the Liberty Road corridor.
We are in the progress of hiring someone who's going to be providing that support to all of the CRDs, the Commercial Revitalization District in the county. We have about 18 of them, and Liberty Road is one of them.
Right.
Gane, as a person who owns a historic site on Rolling Road, the aspect of the historical part of this is very interesting to me. We have an architect who is willing to, who has given us a plan, and the cost of it is $380,000 to restore and to finish the safe house. That to me would bring a destination to Baltimore County. We could educate some of our youth on history, not only youth, but everybody. But the idea is that it would bring in people from outside of Baltimore County. As it is now, when we have gatherings, we don't only have people that are from our area, but we have people from other areas. A matter of fact, on May 22nd, I have people coming from California that want to hear about the Safe House. So my idea is that I believe we need to start looking at the historical aspects that we have right here in our area.
Right, yeah, to make it a destination.
Absolutely.
So, right. So I think these are all great ideas. I think for now, I just want to make sure that we are familiar with the action plan. Once we
Okay.
talk about creating subcommittees, you'll see where you want to, where you want to be in those subcommittees. What are your interests? What are your expertise? And then those are going to be questions that we can further discuss.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure, you're welcome. So the next element is transportation in the action plan. And the project number 1 is to address that last mile concerns. Strategy A, continue to review many forms of alternative transportation, including transit infrastructure, bicycle infrastructure, pedestrian, and multimodal infrastructure. Strategy B, consider developing a microtransit, a circulator, to fill the last mile gap in public transit system. Project 2, improve the traffic congestion and address traffic speed issues. So strategy A, work with SHA to develop a traffic impact study and/or a roadway congestion index. Evaluate signal timing at intersection problems on Liberty Road and formulate a plan to improve the traffic congestion. Strategy B, prioritize the list of high traffic speed areas and work with SHA, Baltimore County Department of Public Works and Transportation, and the Police Department to formulate plans for traffic control and traffic calming measures. Project number 3, improve pedestrian safety in the area. Strategy A, assess the placement, maintenance, and improvement of bus stops and bus shelters on Liberty Road. Strategy B, evaluate pedestrian crosswalks on Liberty Road and enhance signalization for safer pedestrian experience. Explore adding flashing pedestrian crosswalk systems, such as lane light, to decrease the pedestrian accidents. Strategy C, assess the condition of existing sidewalks, create an inventory database of areas lacking sidewalks, and develop a feasibility study to address the issue. Strategy D, evaluate and improve lighting in the area, install new lighting, upgrade existing lighting through the street program managed by the Department of Public Works. And I have to say that this one has been completed. Lighting on Liberty Road, I feel like if I don't mistaken, from the city line all the way to Marriottsville or even further has been replaced by the county. Strategy E, develop and if feasible, implement a bike and pedestrian trail network that connects nearby transit hubs, residential and commercial areas. Any questions on transportation? All right, so the next element is housing. Project number 1, maintain and increase affordable and livable housing. Strategy A, collaborate with housing counseling services to provide tools to current and prospective homeowners and provide classes regarding financial responsibility and financial literacy. Strategy B, continue to promote the county housing programs such as first-time home buyers, single-family rehabilitation loan, closing cost programs, emergency repair grant program, and foreclosure prevention. Collaborate with Maryland DHCD to take advantage of the various home ownership programs and loans offered. Strategy C, increase home ownership in blighted communities by encouraging rehabilitation and reuse of vacant buildings. Assemble vacant properties along Liberty Road and work with Community Development Corporation for redevelopment opportunity. Project number 2, promote and maintain a variety of housing choices to meet the needs of the population and encourage socioeconomic diversity while remaining compatible with the character of the area. Strategy A, expand full spectrum housing for residents at diverse income levels and life stages, and for individuals with disabilities by encouraging high quality mixed income, multi-generational developments, and promote the Housing Accessibility Modification Program to make housing more accessible. Strategy B, continue to implement smart growth policies by supporting mixed-use development and traditional neighborhood development in the area. Strategy C, explore areas where new residential units are possible and attract new residents to the CRD, foster new housing investment. Project number 3 under housing, address property maintenance issues to maintain and improve the standards of communities in the area. Strategy A, apply for community legacy and Bernie funding to revitalize older communities and offer home improvement assistance to preserve home values and neighborhood pride. Strategy B, coordinate with Baltimore County Code Enforcement to address and enforce code violations. Strategy C, coordinate and schedule district-wide cleanup and beautification days with the community. And we are stepping into the quality of life element. Project number 1 is to ensure that citizens of all ages have access to quality recreational and leisure opportunities. Strategy A, apply for community legacy and Bernie funding. Wait a minute, something is wrong here.
Yeah.
No.
Can we go back to the housing?
Yeah, sure.
I'm not understanding. I think if you go back a slide, yeah, what's strategy C? What I mean, what do you mean by rehabilitation and reuse of? You mean to turn them into businesses, or what do you mean by that? C.
It's just for redevelopment opportunities wherever we have vacant buildings, because we are right now talking about the housing. So in residential areas, wherever we have blighted or like vacant buildings that have been sitting for a long time, if we can rehabilitate and reuse them for redevelopment opportunity.
Yeah.
And I know this is saying along Liberty Road. We're gonna have to make that assessment and analysis to see if there are any for housing or even for like other use.
Okay. I'm fine with the maintaining and increasing affordable and livable housing, but I just want to make this point because we don't have to stay on it, but we're having issues with these group homes and assisted living homes in my neighborhood in particularly. So when you say things like that, affordable living, it's like, people are just moving in. I mean, we have like more than 38 houses that are next to each other in my neighborhood that are not all safe, and I'm not sure if they're all licensed, but that's the main problem before we get to increasing affordable and livable housing. I mean, there's other issues to me before we get to this point.
Okay. And again, I have Amy Menzer here, who is the expert in this because she used to work for DRC, the Dundalk Renaissance Corporation. So, Amy, do you have any feedback?
I think the point of this particular bullet was to increase home ownership. So the issues that you're having around, pardon me, I'm recovering from COVID. The issues that you're having with the group homes, I've been hearing about those issues in this part of the county for a long time. So, but I think increasing home ownership in general as a strategy is one way to reduce the likelihood of homes being turned into group homes and assisted living. So it doesn't it doesn't fix what's already going on there, but if there's more demand for home ownership, then there's going to be less likelihood that those houses are going to get sold.
Sorry.
Do we still have a state moratorium on group home, or in state, I guess, registered or licensed group homes? It's gone?
I am not
Yes.
an expert in that issue, so I can learn more about it because I'll be doing more work in this county with you all. So
There are regulations for them, but it doesn't seem to be enforced.
Yeah, can I say something?
I can't find a person to help me enforce it.
Yeah. Can I say something?
Sure.
Years ago, when I had a weekly column that I wrote for one of the newspapers for about 6.5 years, I went around to a whole bunch of group homes in the northwest area of Baltimore County. And I spoke directly with the young adults and teens that were supposed to have been regulated under these group homes. And there were standards in place that an adult was supposed to come visit them on a weekly basis, and then depending on whether they were or weren't above or 18, because you can be emancipated at 16, they might have been required to come more frequent than that. These kids were telling me that the people who were supposed to come and make those visits hadn't shown up for a month or so, that they were getting checks, they were kind of regulating themselves, 4 and 5 teenagers living in a home with very, very little adult supervision. And the incentive, the monetary incentive to use your home that way far outweighs the incentive to be a single homeowner. These group homes exist for a reason. They are spectacularly enriching. They really are. So if you've got a single home, unless you just really want to keep it as your personal home, folks realize very quickly, I can make a ton of money opening up a group home and at least creating a record and getting the kids to say that I visit, whether I really visit or not. And they loved it. They loved the fact that they were free to do their own thing without adult supervision. So no one was, they weren't turning in the adult, and the adult wasn't speaking up. So it was working well. People were just making a lot of money. So until we fix it up and down the ladder, when we have that as an option, it's always going to be something undesirable to have in any community. But in terms of the blighted area, I know for a fact that there's regulations within the HUD regulations that say that after so many months, the neighbors can band together and ask the county or the state, depending on who owns who's involved in the process, to have a particular area declared blighted, a building declared blighted. I've never understood for the life of me why it took so long to tear down Bennigan's and IHOP, because the federal regulations take months to a year, not years and decades.
And the housing, I can say from my neighborhood, Kings Park, there's a couple houses in here that appear abandoned, and the county is aware of that, but trying to get them to enforce and to complete the actions to position those properties where someone else can take them over and restore them so that they can be made for market rate uses. the county has not done their part to allow that to happen.
All right, so this is a great discussion. I think once we create the subcommittees, this is going to be a good discussion to further do within subcommittees, because we don't have a lot of time today, and I want to review the whole action plan and discuss other topics. Maybe we can hold the discussion until probably next meeting where we're going to be having those subcommittees created. So action plan, quality of life element. We have a couple of projects. The first project, I think we talked about ensuring that that all citizens of all ages have access to quality recreational and leisure opportunities. Project number 2, reduce the crime and make communities safer. And for that, we have a couple of strategies. Strategy A, identify target areas where criminal activities are concentrated and practice hotspot policing strategies by targeting police resources and activities to those places. Michelle, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I know the slides got mixed up, but do you remember any of the strategies that were on that first project slide, just off the top of your head?
So in here I have, can you all see this, the other screen that I'm in right now? Do you,
No, we just see the
Let's see.
action plan on your PowerPoint.
Yeah,
okay.
this is
All right,
this
let
is
me
screen.
change
Oh, I
screen and
see it.
share it.
Strategy A, B, and C.
But those
Okay,
are
yeah.
those are the
No,
ones from before. They're the
Yeah,
wrong
there's no
project.
screen.
I just have to share another content. Let me share this one. So this is the original
Oh.
application.
Mhm.
And this is the one that I'm sure you have reviewed. Let me see if I can make it bigger.
Rehabilitate aging recreational infrastructure.
Here you go.
Yep. Rehabilitate aging recreational infrastructure to ensure that parks and recreational facilities remain safe, functional, and attractive. B, evaluate all the parks and recreational sites and make necessary enhancements to address modern recreational demands. And C, provide additional police, athletic league, recreational centers in the areas where merited.
Okay.
So I see a couple of hand raised. Michelle?
Oh, I didn't put it down, but I was going to wait to see if you had another project number for this, because what I don't see is any reference to arts affecting either an arts as an economic strategy, which would have been in an earlier economic slide, or here arts as part of the quality of life. I see recreation, but I don't see arts as part of that process.
Okay. Miss Linda?
Yeah, I was going to ask if this is the land that's up and down Liberty Road and maybe a few blocks off. What parks are you including in it?
All right, so I think you missed the first part of the presentation, but
I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. So if you had had a chance to review the application, so anything that is listed here, we went to community engagement. It took about 8 months in 2020 in order to put this plan together. So this plan is already approved. Everything in here is already approved. But the good thing is that they get renewed every 5 years. So anything that you don't see included in the action plan, there will be an opportunity in 2025 to include that. If you talk about arts, and you don't
I know
see,
I put that there. I know I put it. I put it on
so
the list when I came.
yeah, so if we don't see it here in this plan, there will be opportunities to include it. But I want to show you the boundary. I think I may have shared that with you on my first meeting, just to show you the boundary of the sustainable community, which is a large boundary because it includes Woodlawn, it includes Pikesville, and also Randallstown. I'm gonna get to it somehow. All right, let me see if I can make this. Oops, keep going.
But no part of Owings Mills, correct?
The sustainable community boundary was approved by the state. So the county has nothing to do with, well, we do. What's going on?
But Owings Mills isn't part of it.
Mhm,
Is
right.
the question.
No.
Gane, click that
That's not part of
enable
it.
all features. Maybe
Oh,
we
thank you.
Sure.
Someone knows
Because
what they do.
I know when we were talking about the redevelopment of the commercial areas, we had specifically said we wanted art to come as part of it.
Yeah, I
You
know.
wanted, I'm sorry,
In
you said you wanted
parks,
what?
When we were
arts.
talking about redeveloping the commercial areas, we were talking about we wanted arts to be part of it.
Oh, yeah. So that was the design review panel and
Right.
the design guidelines, which is different from this one. And that was one project listed here, and you will see it where we said, you know, it would be great to have to create design guidelines for Liberty Road and also have a DRP area. So that is one project that is already addressed here. All right, let's try again. So this is the sustainable community area. As you can see, it has, the parts of Randallstown, and we did include here. This is the newest proposed addition that were able to be included. So this is already approved, and this is Devon's Stony Brook area. And then we also have Woodlawn, part of the sustainable community. But no, Owings Mills is not part of it.
So it's everything below Winans Road. Or not even that. Or not even
necessarily everything. It's
above
Yeah.
Windsor Mill, kind of.
Okay, I see.
Okay. All right, so it's already 7:30. It's time is flying. So can I go back to the action plan? So that was project 1, and project 2 is to reduce the crime and make community safer. Identify the target areas. I think I did say that. Strategy B, continue to increase the traffic enforcement and foot patrols in the commercial areas, increase the police diversity and inclusion training to officers to build competency as they provide public safety to a diverse community. Strategy C, continue to develop and or maintain citizens on patrol programs, continue to foster relationship between officers and local business owners, increase the coordination and information sharing with neighboring jurisdictions, state and the federal partners. Project number 3, address property maintenance issues. I think we did touch base on this. A lot of the quality of life projects and the ones that, where was it again? Under housing, we have also like some maintenance issues, like property maintenance issues are a little bit alike. So address property maintenance issues. Strategy A, reassess the county enforcement of code violations, develop a guideline for property maintenance best practices, and make that available to all property owners and tenants. Strategy B, form a committee to track, monitor, and report violations to the county, because Baltimore County Code Enforcement is a complaint-driven department. Strategy C, identify commercial properties with major code enforcement and maintenance issues, work with the property and the business owner to address and enforce the issues. And if required, escalate any unresolved issues to code enforcement. Strategy D, increase the code enforcement staffing to improve the resource allocation and response time. And I believe this one is a check. Code enforcement has increased their staffing. Project number 4, create a sense of place for Liberty Road, CRD, Commercial Revitalization District. Strategy A, identify locations within the CRD where improvement would be most impactful. Update or install attractive gateway entrance signs along Liberty Road in Westerstown to provide strong community identities, foster landscaping and tree planting projects. Strategy B, identify locations where public arts, there you go, murals, sculptures, and painted hardscape would be feasible and a benefit to the commercial district. Strategy C, apply for community legacy funding to increase the aesthetic visual quality of the CRD with streetscape amenities, landscape improvement projects, branding features to give the commercial district a unique identity.
All of that is art, you know.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, the visual quality. Yeah.
Mhm.
Strategy D, explore creating design guidelines. So this one is a big check mark. We did this one, it's completed.
Mhm.
Strategy E, increase the organizational capacity by improving and enhancing the skills, process, and resources of current organizations in the area. This is one that is so much needed everywhere in the county. All right, so now we are moving on to the local planning and the land use, which is the last element in the sustainable community. Project number 1, encourage design quality of new proposed development, foster improvement of existing facade within the CRD. Strategy A, explore designating the core of Liberty Road corridor a commercial design review area. We did this one when we were doing the design guideline. This is done deal now. Strategy B, evaluate where design review area would be the most beneficial along Liberty Road and apply for community legacy funding to hire a consultant. So while we didn't hire a consultant, we did this ourselves with the help of the community. So this is done deal. Strategy C, develop community-driven plans for identified opportunity sites. Project number 2, evaluate the effectiveness of the commercial revitalization district programs. So like I said earlier, we do have a program, for the commercial revitalization. We need to evaluate it because it's not really being used at the potential that is needed. So we need to evaluate and update the CRD revitalization programs. Strategy B, develop a strategy to promote the county revitalization programs. And you will see some of these are repetition just in different, different words. Strategy C, strengthen the financial incentive of the building improvement loan program for commercial properties by offering matching grants in addition to interest-free loans. Project number 3, incorporate improvement and beautification components in all future development proposals. So A, incorporating sidewalks and bike lanes in all future park projects located in the sustainable community area to improve the pedestrian experience. Strategy B, require the developers to install more elaborate landscaping, more attractive fencing, lighting, and streetscape development proposal along Liberty Road. And then the last project under local planning land use is consider developing a roadmap for obtaining state designated districts. So the strategy A, evaluate the possibility for Randallstown to obtain the A&E designation, and if feasible, develop a roadmap for obtaining the arts and entertainment designation.
Mm-hmm.
Strategy B, evaluate the possibility of designating the Liberty Road corridor a Maryland opportunity zone. All right, so now that we are all familiar with the action plan, now that we know what is listed, the projects, our next assignment is to make sure that we prioritize these projects. We want to prioritize them by short, medium, and long term. And then my other question to you is what do you think, how can we best implement this? How can we best implement the action plan? We have all these different elements, all these different projects. What is the best process, the best way to implement the action plan? We know we need to seek funding. We were fortunate to have $250K from the county. It's not, I don't know about the future, but we need to seek funding. There's a lot of funding to the state, to the federal. We need to be seeking funding in order to implement these projects. We need to write grants in order to get that funding. We need to see in this group, are there anybody who is a grant writer, has that expertise to write the grant? We need to also find who are going to be the project managers. We need to manage the projects. So having said that, these questions are actually taking me to the next discussion is the fiscal agent. And the fiscal agent, it's an organization, a nonprofit organization that has the status to apply for grants. They are going to be providing that financial management of projects. We need to find out who is eligible here to be a fiscal agent, who has the capability to be a fiscal agent, and who has the capacity to be a fiscal agent. And if none of us can be a fiscal agent, can you think about any organizations that can be partners? Can you think about?
Is a fiscal agent the same as a resident agent?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Is a fiscal agent the same as a resident agent? The
No,
person
it's
who
not.
receives the documents?
No,
for
it's not the
nonprofit?
same. So the
Okay.
fiscal agent will be the applicant who is going to be managing the money if we get awarded. So let's say we put a grant for 10,000 and we want the project, we put a project in for, I don't know, landscaping. We get awarded. Who is going to be that fiscal agent? Who is going to be that organization? Who's going to be managing the money? Who's going to be writing the plan? Who's going to be reporting to the state? And again, in here, before we even talk about all this, I think I want to bring Amy Menzer again because she has had a lot of experience with grant writing. She knows what it takes once you are awarded, the responsibility to report to the state. I'm just going to turn it to her to explain before anybody, before we even talk about the fiscal agent. Amy, are you here?
Yeah, Kane, thank you. I'm just learning you all very slowly and gradually here, so I don't want to assume that I know what all the experience and different connections to different nonprofits and other associations you may have of organizations that could, or you yourself could write the grants and manage the grants. But certainly, I think it's a different funding sources have different levels of complexity and difficulty as far as how difficult the application is, how closely it's monitored, that the amount of literal hours that are involved in managing the money, reporting on the money. Some grants require monthly reports, some require quarterly reports, some really don't require a report till you're done, if that. So it really varies. And so I think that, and obviously certain projects are much, much more complex to make headway on and see success than others. I think something like doing a mural, while it takes several steps, it's a relatively defined, concise project with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And did you succeed or not? Well, it's pretty easy to judge that, right? Is the mural there or not, right? So I'm just using that as an example. Whereas increased home ownership, that is a much, much bigger discussion, as we very, very, very briefly touched on. So I don't know the capacity of this group currently. I would encourage you to, in the short term, try to focus on some short-term winnable items as you're building your committees and fleshing out the work of the different committees. And the county is also in the process of, they're about to issue an RFP for convening a consultant that will convene stakeholders around a broader process for the Liberty Road area. And I'm not sure that I can say more than that at this point, but I think that there may be more capacity in the future to pursue some of the thornier and more complex issues that are on your action plan. So that's, anyway, I could blather on for hours, so I'm going to stop there and just, I don't know, Gane, where you want to take it.
I've got to ask this question. Are you suggesting that someone should do this work for free?
Well, the question is there a nonprofit entity that currently has staff that there's a mission fit that dovetails between pieces of this action plan and their own current work, such that you could piggyback, you could partner and work on it together. There's no operating support money in, like, for example, the state's community legacy program. So that I'm aware of, although they haven't issued their latest.
Here's the reason I asked that question.
Yeah.
I just gave a program up in Glendon area, Ricestown, Glendon area over the weekend. I was at their Blooming Arts Festival and I had an initiative that I was handling that involved a lot of people. And one of the people that came over to me, that introduced herself to me, was the Main Street manager. And you know who that person is. She is the person who has been hired to literally be almost like a little mayor of the Main Street area, just above Ricestown Road, where it shifts and becomes Main Street. And then you run into Franklin Middle School and Franklin Elementary School, and it heads on out to the Carroll County line, and you have Glendon and the upper part of Owings Mills, but you mostly have old historic Ricestown.
Correct.
She is the person hired to stay on top of this, help write, grants, help to keep the community organized. But they do have a structure. They do have a board structure. I met all these people, and I kept thinking as I was talking to them, boy, that's what Liberty Road needs. Except that our Main Street isn't just a couple of miles. Our Main Street for Liberty Road is almost 8.5, 9 miles.
Liberty Road is having worked at Dundalk Renaissance, I have familiarity with the Main Street.
I talked with the people from Dundalk Renaissance today.
And Liberty Road and the length of that corridor is a much more complicated situation, I would say. So I don't think there's one easy answer to that situation, but I think that there's a definite recognition in the county that there's a need for a focus on Liberty Road, and I think you're going to see some more attention and resources that can be brought to bear on that. It doesn't mean the solutions will be easy or simple, but I think there's a definite.
Can I make a suggestion to the people on this call right now after they get off? I'm glad you mentioned Dundalk Renaissance. I was going to bring that up, and you brought it up before I did. Please go on to the Dundalk Renaissance site. Go on to dundalkusa.org. That's their website. And see what a community can do. There was a time when a lot of people said, oh, Dundalk's got so many issues, problems, la da 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 da. But I went on the Dundalk Renaissance site and I thought, oh my goodness, if we had this over in Liberty Road, all this organization and structure and this beautiful website and information and so forth, please, I encourage all of you to do that. It's fantastic.
And I'm sure Amy Menzer is very proud of the words right now, because she is the lady who kind of created everything, all of that Dundalk Renaissance Corporation. So, and she's helped us.
The kind words. When I started there nearly 16 years ago, I was the only employee. So that was incredibly overwhelming, as you might imagine. So, but the point is, it takes time and it takes a lot of work.
Are you here, Amy?
Things are still in area right now. So
I think what you're saying is we need to, I think it's more of a development corporation for the area that becomes the agent rather than trying to have a multi-generational. I mean, it took more. I moved here with my parents in 1972. It took a while for things to develop the way they have, and it's going to take a long time to make that repair. And so it's not a person or, it's an entity that is there to serve all of the needs that exist within the community over time. So, I mean, I see that as making
And
the
I
most
think that's
sense.
the county's intention, is to help facilitate the establishment of that entity. You're going to see that in the next 6 months. You're going to see more rollout on that.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm suggesting is that if there's something you want to do now while you're waiting for that to happen, because you're going to hear more about that. I'm just not sure what I can say right now, so that's why I'm being kind of coy and weird. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm
Right.
just not sure what I'm authorized to say right now.
I think that whoever works on this project, I mean, we've touched on every agency within Baltimore County,
Yeah.
and there are strategies within Baltimore County that exist that are going to have to rethink how they're organized, which means you have to have that communication and access with those agencies on a weekly basis to be able to not just say, well, what can you do, but to sort of push back and say, is there a different way to do this?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I guess one question, I agree with you, and that's, that those can be challenging things to implement and pursue, but I hear what you're saying. I don't know if you all, as a group of volunteers or people who have connections with different nonprofit, there are voluntary organizations in the county, in neighborhoods throughout the county, throughout the city, who apply for smaller grants to manage and implement community improvement type projects. And so I guess what I'm wondering, and that's also something that you're going to hear more about in the next 2-3 months, is more about potential funding available for that is meant for sort of small organizations who may be all volunteer entities. But I guess I also want to, I think part of what Gane's question is also about is, are there grants you think you'd want to try and apply for right now that may be incremental steps that it doesn't require that we set up a CDC to do? Like, you don't have to have a CDC in order to do a mural. So that's just a question. If that's, am I right, Gane? Is that you're kind of asking, is there stuff?
I would like to add, I would like to add to answer to Linda's question. I do understand when you say the paid person with the Main Street manager, and I'm working with another group in Arbutus who just obtained, not just like last year, they got their sustainable community designation. So you are in the right place now that you got the designation, and having a Main Street manager and having a funded position for someone to manage like that is down the lane. Arbutus is in the same stage now. They don't have like a paid person to take initiative and apply for the grant, but in the steering group, they also have a steering group just like you guys. And in the steering group, there are nonprofit organizations, and they are just doing it to start with. And down the lane, the thing is to start with small projects. They are going to try and apply for the community legacy application now, as soon as the state announces. They have a nonprofit status now. They are going to do that. They are going to see. They are going to get the money. It is voluntary, like it's a nonprofit organization, but they are just doing it. It's the first thing. They are wetting their feet. They're going to see how it is. Down the line, their thing is, after we try and manage the action plans, which is listed in the action plans, after they do that, they are slowly going to try into Main Street and other things, and they're going to get grants. to get a funded position. So that's all down the lane. But I'm just trying to say that if there is a nonprofit organization, they just have to step up and see how they can do it.
All right, and I think thank you, Josephine, for that. I think I have seen Sheila Lewis' hand raised.
Yes, I know I haven't been here in a long time. I've been keeping up. I've been attending class, and I just left the HRC meeting, which I have every uh, second Wednesday of the month. Um, and I thought the discussion was very interesting. And what came to my mind was the CDC, because that's really the only way that there's going to be any type of significant ongoing change for Liberty Road. Because that's the magnitude of the issues for Liberty Road. And it's complicated because it's looked at by the county as three different nodes. And I don't like it that way, but I think it might be appropriate in some aspects to consider it in those three different nodes as opposed to say, okay, we're going to do all Liberty Road. Because when you do that, then the people up in the western and far western end in Randallstown like have completely different ideas and issues than the people at the eastern end near Lockern. So it's appropriate that way. And I think that it is significant, and I am glad to see that the county has realized that they need to take the responsibility to lead that effort, that the community groups that have been lobbying for this attention for a long time are finally being heard. And for the county to come out and say, yes, we're going to put together a plan that's not only going to revitalize Liberty Road, that's going to have a significant impact on the residential communities that abut and are adjacent to Liberty Road. Because Liberty Road doesn't have any functional downtown space. Now, what they have considered the economic development center of Liberty Road is around Northwest Hospital near Oak Court and Liberty Road, where you have your large employers, where you have Northwest Hospital, you have Walmart, and you have Home Depot. And that's really any type of significant economic employment centered around Liberty Road. Other than that, you're just going to see the little small strip malls and small businesses, that kind of thing, because it's primarily a residential area. And while I do applaud, for example, when you talk about how they've created this town center for Catonsville, and it's wonderful because Catonsville has that town center, and how you've done some the Ricestown Main Street. That's lovely because they have it. But for Liberty Road, we're really talking about maintaining those areas, those small economic areas, the small strip malls like Woodmore, revitalizing them, bringing them back up to par, put some more diversity in businesses so that the people who live in those areas don't have to travel to Owings Mills to find a shoe repair or travel to Owings Mills for a boutique. That is you're right there near where you are right now. Liberty Road's to the point where we have to travel to Owings Mills or even Baltimore City to find a food market. So we see how badly Liberty Road has been eroded, and is glad to see that the county is going to be serious about it. Is going to take a CDC, and we need a CDC really quickly because when we talk about being a food desert, it's going to take the efforts, the coordination, the experience, and the know-how of someone with experience with governmental agencies, not only on the county level, but on the federal level, because there is a federal money available where the federal government can give incentives like tax breaks, they can give building grants to, and this is specifically for food markets to come into areas that are designated as a food desert. And according to USDA website, this area of Liberty Road is designated by the United States government as a food desert. So if we can get the county to say, let's go to our federal representatives, get them to tap into that federal money to, for example, to ask a food market, maybe ShopRite might come back to Liberty Road Maybe if we say we're going to give you this amount of money as incentive to come to Liberty Road, maybe they can identify a building that needs renovation. Maybe that federal grant money can be used to entice them to come back to Liberty Road. And that's the kind of thing that really has to happen at the county level. And I'm glad I'm starting to see some movement, but that's really what really needs to be done. And that is our vision. I mean, just think how small our vision is, just to get a food market.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle. Linda?
Yes. Thank you for all that you just said. I'm in total agreement that it's going to take a CDC. A gazillion years ago in another lifetime, when I was the community development block grant manager for all of Baltimore County, handling all the HUD funds coming into Baltimore County, this was the kind of stuff that the communities came to us to help facilitate. We didn't ask them to do it by themselves. They came to us and we provided block grant monies for this to be done. I know a lot of those things have changed, but here's the reality. The reality is that this community, as she was talking about diversity, the reality we need to have a variety of different functions that are not included in this area. If the county wants to be serious about redeveloping Liberty Road, put some county agencies along Liberty Road. Don't just have them in Towson. I'll give you a prime example. Are you aware that if someone were to step in from the federal government and look at our current Board of Elections and its location, that it does not meet the minimum requirements for ADA? Because ADA requirements say that not only do you have to be accessible coming into the building, but all of the streets surrounding it have also got to be accessible. When they first moved in there, I said, whoa, wait a minute, that's not an ADA compliant location. The building, the rooms themselves, but not the area in which it's located because of the lack of sidewalk and so forth for people who are disabled and having to go over a huge long parking lot where police cars are abandoned and repaired. Why hasn't the Board of Elections been moved to Liberty Road? It's been moved around 4 or 5 times that I can recall in various locations, but at no point did anyone say, let's move it to where the most activity for voters is taking place anyway. Why not allow Liberty Road? There's tons of permits and licensing departments and agencies that could be easily put in buildings. We don't just have to turn former shopping spaces into shopping spaces. We can turn them into job generators by putting those jobs out here on Liberty Road instead of requiring people from Liberty Road have to go somewhere else like Towson to work in some of those high-paying jobs. Put them out here. Make it more mixed use. Oh, by the way, when ShopRite was put down in Gwen Oak, the Gwen Oak community said, well, you know, one of the things we're missing here is some community meeting space. So in addition to building a supermarket, could you put a community meeting room inside? One of the groups I belong to meets there once a month. Yeah, we go from Baltimore County to ShopRite in Gwen Oak to use their community meeting space. That should be a requirement for anyone that wants to come in this area with a food store from now on. See, there are many different things that are things that we can ask for that people with the right kinds of incentives can bring here, but we have to know what to ask for and know how to maximize those opportunities right away, because not all that money will be around forever. But you're right, there is still money around for addressing communities that are food deserts and so forth. So, you know, I'm all in favor of doing this stuff, but understand that it's going to take some real time and effort. And these haven't been a grants administrator and a grant writer. And this stuff doesn't happen overnight. You have to have community buy-in. And so That's all I'm saying. The CDC is the way to go.
Thank you. And I know, Danielle, I apologize. You have your hand raised for a while. Do you want to say something, or have you already put that in the chat? We cannot hear you, Danielle. Okay. You can always type it in the chat. So it's 8 o'clock and I still have one topic I want to discuss with everybody, if it's okay. So now that I have brought up the fiscal agent, I wanted to hear about what you think about. Feel like from what I'm hearing, we are just going to put that on hold and wait until a CDC is in place in order to implement any of these projects. Is that what I'm hearing from everybody?
I think it would be useful to have groups like Dundalk Renaissance or others that have worked to build the infrastructure. I mean, and that's what you're hearing from us, Amy and Gane, is that we have watched that whatever infrastructure exists. I mean, Liberty Road was developed in kind of a hodgepodge way, and I mean, is there anybody here from the Liberty Road Business Association?
No.
That's my point. We don't even have a chamber that is here for this conversation. We are at ground zero for infrastructure building. So it would be really useful to have organizations, not just in Baltimore County, but from other areas that have been successful at trying to address pretty much every facet of a healthy community and restoring that. Because it's a daunting task. But if we had the opportunity to hear from other groups that have been successful in developing that, I think that would help us as we think about our own strategy for planning.
Okay. That's great. So I know I haven't mentioned diversified housing. They are on Liberty Road. So what I'm trying here to see if it's possible is, can we partner with those type of organizations? Can those type of organizations be the fiscal agent, or can any organization in this group that has the 501c3 status, can they be the fiscal agent just to be the applicant? And others are going to be the co-applicant. And then that way, we are not missing on opportunities, because there is a big opportunity coming up from the state. And I'm going to go to the next slide since we are running out of time. So anytime soon, because usually it happens around this time, the state anticipate that there will be 8 million for community legacy. There will be 9 million for strategic demolition fund and 13 million for Bernie as capital funds and 500K for operating funds. So these are opportunity grants that are available in the state of Maryland. Or the state, it's very competitive, I have to say. It's for the whole state of Maryland. A lot of the organizations apply for this type of funding in order to implement projects. I know Liberty Road Business Association attempted to apply last year, but it didn't work out. So why I'm bringing that whole fiscal agent, I know the CDC is around the corner. We don't know when that's going to happen. We hope that that's going to happen very soon. But while we're waiting for that to be in place, is there any other strategy that we can use to get a part of this money that is going to be available for the Maryland, for the state of Maryland? Can we have a part of this money and start implementing any of the projects? It can be small. We don't have to apply for $100,000. Even if it's $10,000 that we are applying, we can apply that towards maintenance of landscaping down the road, anything that we want to do. But in order to do this, we need to have someone who has the capacity, that has the capability to put an application in. And if we all decide that there's no one that we can think of, do we have any connections? It can be, out of this group. If we don't, then at least we know that we have tried, but we don't have that connection, and we just have to let this opportunity pass.
because I have this whole thing. our community, we do have a 501c3,
Okay.
and we have applied, we've gotten grants. I think our largest one was from the Baltimore Community Foundation a couple of years ago. However, we were interested in going after a $25,000 United Fund grant. And one of the things that stopped us was the financial requirements. Although, I mean, just to get together all of the um, treasury reports and financial documents that they required, that was a financial burden on our community association. So when you say we're going after money from the state, I mean, just thinking about any community group, even a 501c3, pay you the money to get that financial documentation. It has to be done by a CPA, just to say, okay, this is part of the application. So you're coming to us, small community groups, who are working on our communities. And like I said, I know our community such has been successful at getting grants. But now you're saying you've been swimming in the swimming pool, limited size swimming pool, but now we want you to go swim in the ocean. That's a big step up, unless we know that while we're swimming in the ocean, that we are tethered to the county's departments who will not let us fail.
Well, we will never let you fail. That is for sure.
Not intentionally, but like I said, when I'm thinking about the magnitude, I'm looking at this money, and I can think of 10 things right off the top of my head, but I'm thinking about the magnitude that's involved just to prepare that grant. Just the financial part of it on itself is a financial burden that I haven't heard the county say, okay, we know this is going to be required because of the type of the grant and that type of thing. So we're going to make sure that you have the money to pay for that. So, like you said, it might not go through because this is for the statewide, and there might be a lot of people applying for it. So maybe they don't pick ours. But meanwhile, we have put up the let's say $5,000 for all of the financial forms that are required for to say no. And the state and the county is not guaranteed when you wipe your treasury out for putting up those that money for those forms that if you weren't successful, we're going to still make sure that you are made whole. For example, if the state will say, okay, the cost of doing those forms, I'm not the state, I'm sorry. If the county says we're going to cover the cost of doing all those forms and that preparation, so that if it doesn't go through, you're not out of pocket. But if it does go through, then we have already decided what we want and how we're going to implement that kind of thing. But just getting over that first hurdle. That is huge for a community association. And I didn't hear the county say we're going to cover that cost.
Yeah.
I understand. That's why I wanted to bring the subject, so we can have a clear understanding. I think you missed the part where Amy Menzer was explaining how robust, how complicated, how heavy applications can be. And depending on the type of project that we go for, it's going to require, like you said, a lot of reporting, whether they are monthly, whether they are quarterly to the state. And again, here, that's why I put down the capability and the capacity points, because those are going to be required before we can even put a grant. What
I'm saying is, if the grant is approved, I think we can get the reporting under control. I am saying that up front, the community groups don't have. If the grant went through to put the trees in or whatever, and we have to report on that, I think we can get the groups, community organizations to take parts and say, okay, this report has to go in, this report has to go in. What I'm talking about is all the money that's needed to put that grant together, to put that application together. Once it's through, I think we can get the report.
I understand what you're talking about. I mean, I don't know that it would cost $5,000, but certainly there are a lot of funders. They're looking for an organization that has financials that are done in QuickBooks, that are audited, that kind of stuff, and that definitely costs money. So I
Yeah.
think I'm hearing what you're saying there, and there is no county source at the moment that I'm aware of that would help front those
But
costs.
that's why I was saying in the old days when we had Community Development Administration, the original one that I think you might have been part of, right? No, but we had a community development administration, and their job was to be the grant manager. So it acted as a resource clearinghouse for those kinds of things, so that the auditor that did some of your work did it for multiple groups that were trying to apply for grants. You didn't have to fund it personally
I hear
because
you.
it was a resource that was made available to all these different communities that were trying to apply for these little grants. Because otherwise, like she said, it becomes quite onerous.
I think we should talk more about that, at another time, but I don't think that resource exists right anymore
No, it
or
doesn't.
right now. So,
And I don't want the county to get the impression that the community groups aren't willing and ready to step up, because we are. If that grant appeared and dropped in the middle of the street right now, and you told the community groups you got to pull your association together to monitor and report, we can pull together and monitor and report. But what is almost insurmountable for us is to actually fund and put that together. And I don't want to get the county to get the impression that the community groups are stepping back and say, oh no, we can't do this. We're saying we can do it. But the upfront effort, financials, and the expertise for that type of writing and that type of thing, we need the county to step in and give us that support. And then we can, once we get it and it goes into place, I think we can handle the monitoring.
So I'm hearing a couple issues. One is there the possibility of some sort of support for getting those financials or more sophisticated documentation that a lot of funders need? And that's a question we can ask, go back and ask. But I think then the other question is, there are grants that don't require quite as heavy a lift that community associations that are part of this process, part of these committees could pursue potentially now or in the short term while we're waiting for the CDC thing to move forward. And then there's the other issue of there are existing entities that nonprofits that have that lift already that you're talking about, have to do audits or financial reviews, have that documentation, like Diversified Housing Development, like the Liberty Road Business Association. So I think those are routes that could be explored in the near term if you were interested in doing that while we're also pursuing the long-term track.
Well said, Amy. And to be continued because we are running out of time. I just want to talk a little bit about the subcommittees, the idea of creating subcommittees just to make sure that we can manage these projects better. So we have 6 elements. This is how I'm thinking that we can combine them. Again, feel free to change any of the combination, but I'm thinking maybe we can combine the environment project with the quality of life projects. We can maybe combine economy with marketing and rebranding. And then we can have another subcommittee that is combining housing and transportation. I'm not sure if this is the best combination. We can discuss it now. We can discuss it through an email. But this is something that I really would like us to create, see who is interested in what subcommittee, see who can be the lead for those subcommittees, and then we can keep talking about the conversation of the fiscal agent or planning, applying for grants and the whole 9 yards. So do you think that this combination, like right now what I have here, will be having 3 subcommittees? What are your thoughts?
Oh, wow. Environment, quality life definitely go together.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When I see economy and marketing and rebranding, something is going off. Not a red flag, but a yellow flag.
Okay.
Because I think it might be, I don't know, too much. Because one thing about Liberty Road, there is not a lot of for saying we need employers here. I mean, because that's not what we're talking. This is an area of communities, and rather than we need a whole bunch of employers, what we need are services. We need
Yeah.
the product locations. We need the cleaning. The cleaning establishment. We need the shoe repair. We need the small jewelry store. We need the boutiques. We're not looking for, please bring this company here and this company here and this company here, because we've had that. And then when they leave, we are left with these huge, empty, vacant buildings that just deteriorate. Nobody does anything with. This is an area of communities, and people don't see it out. I don't think because of the Beltway. Because before 695 was there and just kind of made us a pass through, there's communities that exist and people understood it. And there was a real rich history about it. And like I said, I just wanted to make sure that there was a clear understanding when you talk about marketing and economy and rebranding. If I wanted the community to be marketed, I want them to be marketed by saying they have the best schools in the area. And people think, I want to live there because I want my kids to go to Woodmore Elementary School, which is with STEM. I want my kids to go to Subbrook Magnet because they've got the best schools. I want them to go to MMA because of the diversity of the programs. Okay, that's a great marketing tool, and that's why I was saying I was like that was that yellow flag that was going on. I didn't want the marketing tool to be about business, business, business. I wanted to be about the great schools. I wanted to be about the great community parks that are there. I wanted to be about there are tennis courts convenient where you can go. There are playgrounds for your kids. That's what should be marketing here.
Yeah.
But
Go
Okay.
ahead.
Miss
Hello,
Sheila,
hello.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Devon. I mean, I think we all need to think about this, because it's getting late, and I think we need to just think it over, and we need to reconvene with some thoughts and ideas, because this is going to take a little time, and we shouldn't rush through this process.
No, you're right. I think you're right. It's late. This is my last slide. Food for thought for next meeting. If you think that we need to reconvene before the next meeting, because the next meeting is in June, June 8th is the next meeting. I will be sending an email, and we can continue the discussion. But what I have here,
I agree with the last statement, and I was going to suggest that because we have so many issues that we're trying to resolve, that a meeting prior to the June meeting, maybe in 2 weeks instead of a month later, would be better to so that we can start trying to get something done on these items.
okay. So I'll send out an email with all the suggestions, and we'll pick something. Something else really quickly, because the summer is coming. We have July meetings, we have August meetings. We have to think about those. Are we going to cancel? When are we meeting? But again, I'm just putting this here so I don't forget about it when I re-listen to the meeting, that we need to discuss that. But something also that is going to be needed. I think that this was a very good meeting. A lot of discussion. There's a lot of decision that we need to take. We'll keep up the conversation through email. So thank you so much. It's 20 minutes past the time. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for your involvement, your engagement. I am really excited about, what is to follow. So thank you, everybody. Have a good evening. I will be sending the email soon. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good evening,
Good night,
ma'am.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
Gane.
night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
I'll
you
look forward
for
to the
all
next
of you.
announcement. Good night.
Good night.